Welcome to the Rainmaker Multiplier on Demand, a podcast for leading financial professionals, or rainmakers, and their teams that offer support for securing a successful future. From marketing help to staffing structure, listen and subscribe for actionable insights from advisors and skilled professionals alike.
Hello, I'm Kirsten Schlumbohm, Vice President and Head of Annuity Sales at C2P. Over the past few years, I've had the pleasure of hosting dozens of episodes for our podcast, A Woman's Clarity, where we have focused on helping both women and men in the financial services industry reach their full potential by interacting with like-minded, strong, and motivated holistic advisors. We want to share the wisdom and expertise from these episodes with you. Please enjoy our subject matter experts as they bring you advice, tips, and insights to better serve female clients. Welcome to A Woman's Clarity. I'm Kirsten Schlumbohm, Vice President of Annuity Sales here at C2P, and I am honored to have Lindsey Lewis joining us today. She is the Executive Director at the American College for the Center of Women in Financial Services and co-chair of Next Gen Advisory Task Force. I met Lindsey in October at our Women in Financial Services conference, and even though it was the first time us meeting face-to-face, I met her a couple times prior in Zoom meetings, but she's always impressed me. So to Lindsey, welcome to A Woman's Clarity. I'm excited to have you here, and I'm really excited because of all the growth you've had at the American College. So welcome.
Thank you. I am thrilled to be here and so excited to record this podcast during Women's History Month, and couldn't think of a better way to celebrate than with you, Kirsten.
Oh, thank you. We have a really great relationship here at C2P with the American College. 3 of our executive team members are a part of your influencers panel.
FinServe ambassadors. Yeah.
FinServe ambassadors. I'm so sorry I said that wrong.
It's okay.
Great relationship. We've got Dave Allison, Jason Smith, and Matt Seitz all helping educate from their points of view at the American College. So it's awesome. But I really would love to learn more from you on what do you do at the American College, if you want to share in your terms.
Absolutely. So the American College of Financial Services is an online institution that trains financial professionals through designation programs and advanced degrees. And as the leader of the Center for Women and over our Next Gen folks, I have multifaceted types of roles. And it's so funny because even trying to explain to my spouse what I do for work, often he is still confused. But I'm an advisor gone academic. So I came from working in the RIA space and then working at a broker-dealer and then coming over to the college. The college, we are a mission-driven organization. And so we really create financial knowledge for the benefit of society. Within the Center for Women, I am the personification of our mission statement, which is to advance, advocate, and promote women in financial services. And we do this through thought leadership, research, community, and education. Part of my role is divided into different aspects. So one aspect, I help with a scholarship cohort that is specifically for women, and I help women with their career and educational journeys and helping them receive designation programs. Additionally, I work with building and developing community. So we have our Women Working in Wealth community. I also help on the academic side. So I'm working on a course around the landscape of financial services. So coming into this industry, even though I went through a CFP, so a Certified Financial Planner registered program, I was still very fuzzy on what it meant to have a career in financial services and what it's like to work at an RIA versus a broker-dealer versus at an academic institution versus at a fintech firm. And so working on a course to clear up some of that and build transparency. And last, I really work towards helping out with curriculum from a lens of inclusion. So when you look at the tenure of the college, we've been around nearly 100 years. We like to call ourselves the 100-year-old startup. But looking at the curriculum and the content and making sure not all couples are a male breadwinner and that there's diverse representation with the case studies and things like that. So that is a new project that I'm working on this year. Aside from all of those activities, you might find me occasionally on the speaker circuit. I have a couple of presentations I do around overcoming financial planning challenges facing modern women or financial planning considerations for LGBTQ+ clients. I also am a CFP certified ethics instructor, so I can teach the ethics course as well. And add on top of that, I am a mom of 2 kids and I travel, and it is such a blast to be an advocate for women and underrepresented groups within financial services.
For those of you listening, it sounds like a lot, but if you ever meet Lindsey, you'll understand how powerful and approachable Lindsey is. You are one of the most easy people I've found to talk with regarding women's issues and how to empower women and how to embrace diversity, equity, and inclusion. And you do it in a way that you make people want to know more. So it's awesome, everything that you do for the American College, for women, and for the diversity, equity, inclusion side of things. But when you went to college, what did you study? Were you actually looking for a career in financial services? Are you one of those few people that actually set out to be in this industry?
Yeah, it is an interesting question. I definitely appreciate the compliment. I always think engaging in any conversation of seeking to understand to be more than to be understood, and that it's better to be interested than to be interesting. So I'm always like leaning into conversations that way. And I think that's the foundation of any type of D&I initiative is just making sure that you're seeking knowledge and curiosity. So definitely think that is applicable, and I appreciate that compliment. So back to college. So I actually was in a state where we had a financial literacy course requirement for high school students. And I grew up in a household where my mom's an accountant. And at the time, my dad was in life insurance and trading futures and Forex contracts. And so I thought, you know what, like that's not what I wanted to do. But I was a big sports junkie. And I'm like, I'm going to be in athletics, whether it's like a PA or in athletics marketing. But then levels of money scripts and financial insecurity, I'm like, you know what? I need to be in something that I know I'll get a job. So I initially went into accounting, and people in that major were like, I think you have too much personality to be an accountant. And so our university actually has a personal financial planning degree program. And so I transferred over to that degree program. And so I started on the conference circuit even as a student. So I would travel to different conferences and events. I think I went to 5 as a student and really got to learn more about the industry at large. The cool thing about going through a certified financial planner or CFP registered program is that you can actually sit for the CFP your senior year of college. You still need your education or your time and business requirements, but because I did that so quickly, I ended up being a CFP and an MBA before age 25. And so there are only 1% of CFP holders who are women who are under age 30. And so it was really fun to navigate that journey. And now I really, advocate for that. And I host events for young women and girls who are interested in financial services to start that conversation at earlier ages. Because when you see data around girls start thinking that boys are smarter than by age 5, and that girls' confidence in math peaks at age 9, and they start self-selecting out of STEM-related programs by age 13. It's like we need to have these conversations earlier and earlier. And so that's how I got into the industry. And after that, I started the path down wealth management. But I've always had this big passion and advocacy for women. And it probably stems from growing up with 6 brothers and no sisters. But I grew up with the mentality that anything my brothers could do, I could do, and maybe even better. And that's kind of what took me on this path to financial services.
I love that. It's great because you are the rare and you are the exception to the rule most times, that this is something you sought out to do. You took your passion and you rose, and that's so awesome. And having 6 brothers made you really tough, I'm guessing.
Or made them even tougher. Yeah.
So how are you with all this? You came into this industry full force with passion, and I absolutely adore and love it. How do you leverage your position and educate to advocate and help lead the advancement for more women in financial services? Because sadly, we're still at about an 80-20 split. And how do we grow that? What are you doing exactly to help? You probably have 10 things or a million things that you do.
Just the first thing that comes to mind, and we're not including non-binary folks in this division, but it is typically around 80% male, 20% female. I think part of the passion that ignited was when I went through the CFP registered program, it was 23% of women were CFP holders. And fast forward to a decade later, and it's still the same percentages. And so I'm thinking, like, are we doing the same things? Like, why is this happening? Why aren't we having more conversations? And that really was part of my pivot out of client facing advice into this advocacy role. Because frequently people will be like, why did you make that transition? And well, one part is the time autonomy, work life integration with young children, but also I'm just wildly passionate about this given all of the data behind it when you see the wage pay income wage gap, investment gap, dream gap, you name all these gaps. I'm like, we got too many gaps. So a lot of the work that I do is working with constituent partners, so institutions, organizations themselves, to think about how they look at their model or even looking at their business models and saying, are your practices friendly to female financial professionals and why aren't they interested? And there's a lot of data around like entry level positions at large wirehouses typically break down 50-50 gender wise upon entry when they get a large cohort of college students. However, if you go 3 years out, you have a large cliff of women who have dropped out. And you go 7 years out and you have an even larger cliff. And so why are they dropping out? And are the systems and processes part of the problem? Is systemically have we built practices that are not helping women thrive? Or are there cultural things? Or are women just self-selecting out? Through a lot of grassroots phone calls. So I will meet with most folks within the industry. I'll open up my calendar and say, like, we can have a 30-minute meeting. I want to hear more about you. And I have had over the last 3 to 4 years, so many conversations with different women where they were discriminated against or microaggressions, or just left a conversation where someone said that like they didn't know that they owned their book of business and that was a valuable asset. And so they offered them a different position and they gave up their book of business and they just didn't know that like that was an asset that they could have sold and that there's like a transitionary period. And so there's some education that doesn't happen on the front end. So really working with constituent partners to rethink their business models and to navigate kind of these pieces that are not working and how do you make adjustments. But the industry at large is like a cruise ship and a lot of us are like little puddle boats and we can make quick pivots and adjustments and change our vernacular and change our vocabulary. But when you're trying to move a cruise ship and you're trying to parallel park, you're like, it's going to take more time and it's going to take more effort and progress might be slow, but eventually you'll like make an adjustment and make a change. And then additionally, it's the education for women on the front end, like understanding what the industry is. When you think of pop culture and I say, okay, name 2 movies that are around finance, like what comes to mind? It's like The Big Short and Wolf of Wall Street. And I'm like, that is a very inaccurate depiction around what financial professionals actually do. And so it's like, how do you change that narrative when even in pop culture or things like that? So there's a lot of like irons in the fire and trying to make a lot of adjustments. And every day there's a new task or new thing. You have the rollback of affirmative action. Okay, how does this change for ourselves as a college, but also for the greater, larger picture? And it's like, you see like 3 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward, 1 step back. But there are a lot of things that you can do. I think getting educated around how to be a good ally, sponsor, advocate, all those things will definitely benefit the industry at large.
I want to just kind of come back to a few things that you said because you did say a lot. And I want to unpack a few things. One, small changes each day leads to big results. So if you go forward 3 steps and go back 1, you're still going to go up 2 after you move past, after you readjust. I think that's awesome. But I also love that you started out in the industry in one facet and you pivoted. And I think that's huge because a lot of women look at financial services and think, well, I can't be the Wolf of Wall Street. They think that being a financial advisor is the only role they can be in to be in financial services. But when there's a plethora of different roles that you can be in, I'm not in direct sales. I sold life insurance door to door starting out. I was a financial advisor, but I found my passion educating training and helping advisors know where products fit to write the best holistic plan for their clients and keep their clients on their financial plan marching forward to retirement. So in your studying, like what would you say the top 3 objections you've heard for women going into financial services? And do you have a good way to overcome that?
We are actually in the process of conducting research specifically around Gen Z women and their perceptions of financial services. So we have some preliminary data from a pilot program that we ran, and they find the industry to be stuffy, right? They just like don't feel comfortable there. They have the perception of like it's older, it's kind of like this old school mentality, it's not innovative. And so self-selecting out of there. And there's like the perceived, I'm not sure I can do this, but at the same time, like every person on the planet Earth, when they were born or they grew up, like they didn't know what a mutual fund was or stock or bond. Like everybody, this is learned. So it can definitely be learned. There's a great research report also by the Carson Group called Women in Wealth Management. And they go through a lot of things, but they find the kind of the old school country club mentality that has been established in the past. And then kind of this new emergence of like what they call the finance bro, which are, if you follow anything on TikTok, they're getting their Patagonia vests on and their blue button up shirts. And they're continuing paths of excluding women, underrepresented groups, et cetera. And so you have these different perceptions. And it was so funny. I was just having a conversation with someone around integrating a golf experience into a conference or an event. And I am not a golfer by trade. And I was like, I feel like that is discriminatory in nature because it's like, it's not something that I want to do. But if I don't participate, I could be missing out on business deals or conversations. And this individual had like a very innovative way of, there's like Women on Course or something like that. It's like a different organization where you can like learn how to golf together and that you can create these fun ways to have conversations and it doesn't have to be super stressful. And so it's like finding ways to integrate with that. But you see this next generation, and I'm talking younger folks, so like millennials and Gen Z, that are having exposure to investing at earlier ages where, you know, a lot of Gen Z, their first interaction with investing is actually through a crypto asset. And you have a lot of advisors who, because of compliance and regulatory reasons, like won't even hop into that ground. And so there's this big disconnect that's happening. However, a lot of these like barriers and obstacles, like financial services can actually be one of the most innovative places to work if you're at the right firm that aligns with your values and is wanting to adopt that. But if you're at a mahogany office and you want to like work remotely while you're a nomadic lifestyle, like perhaps that's where it's not lining up. Also, what we've found is that there's not a lot of understanding and clarity around these 2 topics that I like to bring up, which is income risk tolerance and income risk capacity. So income risk tolerance, how comfortable am I if my paychecks change week to week? So if I'm not comfortable with variable income, there are certain roles within financial services that would be a bad fit for you, even if you could be a great advisor in that capacity. If you have some money belief systems around financial insecurity or something like that wouldn't be a great option for you. But there could be something working at a bank or a more captive broker dealer where you get a salary based position and like you could thrive in that environment. And then income risk capacity. So how much risk can I take with my income? So I'm a parent of 2 children. That health insurance is super important to me. So I don't have as much income risk capacity as my younger brother who lives at home. And so with that, I have the knowledge of like certain jobs or criteria, like wouldn't align with me from my personal values. And so building that transparency and getting educated around the different options. But the other thing that like I think misses the mark sometimes too is like there are more jobs than just a client-facing advisor. You could be a servicing advisor. You could work in operations. You could work in compliance. You could work in marketing. You could work in PR. You could work in leadership, development, training, et cetera. So the industry at large is definitely going to have a huge talent gap when it comes to client-facing advisors. But if you gain more exposure through different types of jobs and different types of outlets, like these folks will have friends or colleagues or people that they could refer out, or they could be trained or developed into some capacity to help with that gap. So there are a lot of things to do within this industry. So what young folks are looking for might be different than more tenured advisors, but it really is, can they pivot and make adjustments to meet the needs of not only just the future talent pool, but the future client, which is going to look very different than the clients that we have today.
Right, but if you also look at the fact, maybe next gen wants to start in a client servicing role to get the confidence, to get the industry knowledge, and to work that career path to feel comfortable and confident becoming an advisor. It's not the only role you can start in as being an advisor, selling life insurance door to door. It scared the heck out of me knocking on doors in rural Iowa and not knowing who was going to answer. But it allowed me a footstep into this industry to grow and find my niche and where I feel where I can thrive, I can be rooted, I can be grounded and growing. So it's really good to be able to educate that there's such depth in financial services to each person's talent, if that's where they choose to be or they want to be. And sometimes you go from one income need into another where you can have more bandwidth for variable comp or not have to worry about the health insurance because you moved into a different season of life. So it's just exciting. You've got the opportunity to really blend your passion and your knowledge with the American College. In what ways have you seen the American College's vision to be the leading authority on economic issues for American women manifest in your professional development in the industry as large?
Yeah, the college has been a great springboard for me to get more educated around a variety of different economic, political issues across the United States. One thing I will say is that the college really is mission driven, and we do create financial knowledge to benefit society. And a cool couple of things that we've integrated this year into our development is that we actually launched our Knowledge Hub Plus subscription platform. So if you are an American College alum who's in great standing, then you can access 60 hours of CE content totally free, and you can get educated around contemporary topics. So I help build a course around crypto, advising on crypto assets, right? It's things that are going to be coming across the table, and you need to have an opinion, even if your opinion is we're not going to touch that, but you need to be educated around that. So we have that. We're also launching into the consumer space. So we actually have a course called Know Yourself, Grow Your Wealth, and that is for underrepresented groups and understanding how they relate to money and understanding their money scripts and getting more clear around financial knowledge. And you see that a financial knowledge gap correlates with stress, divorce, a whole bunch of different things in folks' lives. And so integrating some consumer facing content. And we are going to launch that in Spanish sometime later this year too. So looking at it from English and Spanish, and you're getting the content from folks who have PhDs in financial planning and that have lived experience within financial services. And then we are looking at integrating additional content for folks who are about to retire. I don't know exactly like timeline of that roadmap of consumer facing content, but that's really important. And then for us in the Center for Women, we are always looking at contemporary issues that are facing modern women. So that's one of the courses that I'll teach at financial planning conferences, so that integrating and having conversations around fertility treatment or freezing of eggs, right? Which is a conversation that maybe some folks haven't had or are uncomfortable having, but could play a big financial and economic impact in a modern woman's life. Also, that like maybe modern women don't want to have children, and having the acumen and understanding that your personal belief systems or values should not be pushed on your clients, and having that great integration. So the college is really taking an approach of being that leading authority. And when you look at our programming and our future events that are coming up, we really want to be a place where we foster and incubate great ideas all together. Additionally, we're launching a new podcast called Shares, where we are going to share all of this academic authority with folks around a variety of issues, whether it's retirement, specialized knowledge, or the representation pillar, which is where I will host a couple of episodes.
Hello, I'm Kirsten Schlumbohm. Lindsey and I had such a great inspirational conversation. We simply couldn't keep it all in one episode. So we'll continue our conversation in our next podcast. Talk to you then.
Thanks for tuning in. This podcast was brought to you by C2P, an organization whose purpose is to educate, train, grow, and support holistic financial advisors so families can achieve true prosperity. Never miss an episode by subscribing now to discover new resources and strategies. Visit c2penterprises.com to learn how we can help scale and secure your business. At the time of delivery and any subsequent publishing, information was deemed reliable but is subject to change by the time of listening or viewing. The contents of this piece include options and projections of C2P, are subject to change, and are for informational purposes only. The information provided in this presentation is not intended to be individual investment, tax, or legal advice.